come over from Sheffield. We're going to talk about the law and its real underlying structure, so that people can protect themselves with the law instead of being abused by the law. With this system at present, there's going to be a world crash, which a lot of people have been talking about in many other talks, I'm sure. So the reasons for the crash and the people responsible for the crash, lots of people are exposing. There's dozens of guilty parties. But what's the answer to the crash? No one's explaining what the answer to the crash is. The banking system is designed to remove the wealth from the people. And that wealth is your labour. And it's understanding that money is not wealth and labour is wealth. It's a change of how you conceive of things. That's really what I'm going to be explaining. I'm going to explain you can establish a community system based purely on the human labour and have no use for money, because it's a fiction. Money is not of any value, it's just a fiction that people accept.
It's going to crash and it's going to fall pretty hard, because markets are ruled right now by fear. Investors and the big money, the smart money, I'm talking about the big funds, the hedge funds, the institutions, they don't buy this rescue plan. They basically, they know the market is toast. They know the stock market is finished. The euro, as far as they're concerned, they don't really care. They're moving their money away to safer assets, like treasury bonds, 30-year bonds, and the US dollar. So it's not going to work.
We keep hearing that whatever the politicians are suggesting, and admittedly it's all been rather woolly so far, isn't right. Can you pin down exactly what would keep investors happy, make them feel more confident?
That's a tough one. Personally, it doesn't matter. See, I'm a trader. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I go with what if I see an opportunity to make money, I go with that. So for most traders, it's not about we don't really care that much how they're going to fix the economy, how they're going to fix the whole situation. Our job is to make money from it. And personally, I've been dreaming of this moment for 3 years. I have a confession, which is I go to bed every night, I dream of another recession. I dream of another moment like this. Why? Because people don't seem to maybe remember, but the 30s depression, the depression in the 30s, wasn't just about a market crash. There were some people who were prepared to make money from that crash. And I think anybody can do that. It isn't just for some people in the elite. Anybody can actually make money. It's an opportunity. When the market crashes, when the euro and the big stock markets crash, if you know what to do, if you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this. For example, hedging strategies is one. Then investing in bonds, treasury bonds, that sort of stuff.
If you could see the people around me, jaws have collectively dropped at what you've just said. I mean, we appreciate your candour, however, it doesn't help the rest of us, does it, or the rest of the Eurozone?
I would say this, listen, I would say this to everybody who's watching this. This economic crisis is like a cancer. If you just wait and wait thinking this is going to go away, just like a cancer, it's going to grow and it's going to be too late. What I would say to everybody is get prepared. This is not a time right now to wishful thinking the government is going to sort things out. The governments don't rule the world. Goldman Sachs rules the world. Goldman Sachs does not care about this rescue package, neither does the big funds. So actually, what I would actually tell people, I want to help people. People can make money from this. It isn't just traders. What they need to do is learn about how to make money from a downward market. The first thing people should do is protect their assets, protect what they have. Because in less than 12 months, my prediction is the savings of millions of people is going to vanish. And this is just the beginning. So I would say be prepared and act now. The biggest risk people can take right now is not acting.
Alessio Rastani, thank you very much for talking to us.
Do you dream about the economy at night?
I try not to.
Yeah.
Nightmares.
18 minutes past 11.
What are people going to have to do to protect themselves from this coming crash, which is global? where the banks are going to drain all the wealth of the world to themselves.
And if you haven't seen this story yet this morning, you need to stop what you're doing and take a look. The images will stun you. Up to 50 people are reportedly showing up to the tent city each week. Many of them have lost their jobs and consequently their homes. NBC's Michael Oku joins me now live from Burbank. Michael, you know, a lot of people commenting on this on Twitter to us this morning. Jane Coe wrote that she saw this morning. She said it's very sad and an upsetting state of this country's affairs. I know a lot of people who are going to watch your report right now are going to be surprised by what they see and hear.
Oh, they're certainly going to be surprised if they haven't seen these images before, Monica. I mean, it is awfully bad, and there's no sign that it's getting better anytime soon. And there's a terrible irony in all of this. About a century and a half ago, this area around Sacramento was basically the center of the gold rush. Prospectors pitching their tents along the banks of the American River in order to strike it rich. And today what we see is regular Americans pitching their tents, sometimes in the shadows of downtown Sacramento's skyscrapers, in the hopes of basically buying more time, or simply because they just don't have any other choice. The shelters in and around the town are absolutely overflowing with people. We understand from authorities that there's some 1,500 or so people living in these 10 cities, and as you mentioned, with 50 newcomers joining them essentially every single week. The images, as we look at this, people making their lunch or their dinners, are absolutely striking. What you're seeing, for the most part, are regular middle-class Americans, many of them who had lived from paycheck to paycheck, down on their luck when they lost their job and then their car and then their home, a pattern that we have seen repeated across the country. And many of them now living in these shanty towns that are reminiscent, as you can imagine, of what we saw, at least the images we saw from the Great Depression. NBC was able to talk to some of these folks who are living without any electricity, no running water. A bottle of water for many of these people is about a mile and a half by walking at the local convenience store or at the gas station. And many of these folks worked in the construction business. They're tile setters or truck drivers. And as you know, that business has completely dried up. So with 1 in 10 out of every Californian out of work right now, and the foreclosure rate still skyrocketing, you have to wonder how many more people are going to make the decision that they're going to have to resort to living in conditions like this, Monica.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, startling images, but important to see.
So this is a state of affairs which is getting more and more dominant, where people are living and the houses are empty. Especially in America, you find this a lot. People are living in tents, and the houses, there's entire estates of houses with nobody in them. Because this is how the banks work. They care nothing for people. They only care for assets, chattel. Now, people trust the media. The media is complicit with these criminals, these people, these accumulated wealth elite, these people who dominate the poor, us being the poor. But they're not contracted to speak the truth on the media. They work to an agenda. It's like propaganda.
Picture in Tripoli yesterday, of course. Those pictures coming out overnight. That's front page 4 of the Times, picturing those rebels storming Colonel Gaddafi's compound.
And the Daily Mail has a picture which sums up the feelings of many Libyans. They tore the head off a bust and then put some shoes on top of him, stamping on the bust of the tyrant's head, "We'll get him."
And the Express choose to focus on the public sector's big pay boost.
Let's just take you live to Tripoli. I want to show you some pictures there. This is people in Tripoli in the centre. I think it's... Show you some pictures there.
What flag is that? Look at the flag.
People in Tripoli. Green Square, renamed Martyr Square, call it, choose your name.
Officially,
really.
I suppose,
Yes,
still Green Square, but renamed by those. But as you can see, a huge throng of people now turning out. We spoke very briefly to Schwab this morning, who described the scenes of jubilation and celebration, saying it was a very good day.
More on that after 7 o'clock. Now, back here in the studio.
That's the flag of India. It's not the flag of Libya. So what they're doing is they're showing you footage from something else and pretending they're showing you footage from live at Tripoli. The media's lying all the time, blatantly. It's more blatantly now than ever before. But no one questions it, no one confronts it. Reason is the basis of law. Do we live in a lawful society? Society is an association or a company of persons united together for a mutual or common purpose, which is exactly the same as a corporation in its Law's Black Dictionary definition. So they see corporation and society as identical. A corporation is a body politic. We are in a corporate society, not a lawful one. A lawful society of mankind is what we should be in, but there is no society. What is the law? The rules of society? The legislation of elected representatives? The Constitution? None of these things are the law. Government. The regulation, restraint, supervision or control which is exercised upon the individual members of an organised jural society by those invested with the supreme political authority for the good and welfare of the corporation. Not the people, the corporation. And that only applies to people in function of the corporation. The system that forms fundamental rules and principles by which a state governs the individuals of the corporation. That's very important. Laws enacted by the corporation only apply to people functioning for the corporation. If you're in function of the government, you are under the regulations of legislation. If you're not, then you're not under their regulations. A citizen is a member of a corporate state possessing all the rights and privileges which can be enjoyed as citizens under its constitution and corporate government, and subject to the corresponding duties. Duties because you are in function of a government to be under their rules. You have to be working as the government to be bound by the rules of the government. You are only bound by the rules of the law otherwise. The law is not legislation. The words citizen, inhabitant, resident are employed in different constitutions to define the qualification of electors, meaning the same thing. A corporation is an incorporeal entity, a holy ghost. An artificial person, invisible, intangible and existing only in contemplation of legislation. It's the invention of legislation is a corporation. It doesn't exist without legislation. So it needs a corporation to create a corporation. It possesses only the properties which the charter of its creation confers upon it, either expressly or as an incidental to its very existence. Does anybody know what a charter is?
The market charter, King John.
A charter is a superior granting an inferior man a right. Corporations control the government. We need government regulation to protect us from these corporations. That's what people say. So they're wanting a corporation to rule other corporations for their benefit. But corporations only work for the corporation's benefit. All modern governments are corporations. The House of Lords, company number. The House of Commons, company number. The Labour Party, they're all companies for profit. Every single one of them. The police, the courts, all corporations for profit. These are not public services. The system was never broken. It was built that way. It's designed to steal off you. This isn't something that's slowly evolved. It was from the beginning designed to rob you and enslave you. So, Thomas Paine, a long time ago, described a charter. It's a perversion of terms to say that a charter gives rights. It operates by a contrary effect, that of taking rights away. Rights are inherently in all the inhabitants, but charters, by annulling those rights in the majority, leave the right by exclusion in the hands of the few. They, consequently, are instruments of injustice. All charters, the Magna Carta, the charters of the American Constitution, are all the same. What gives a corporation the right to dictate our rights? What is legal is not the same as what is lawful. This is the Magna Carta, a superior granting an inferior man or woman a right or privilege. The creation of the Roman Catholic Church, the Magna Carta, written by Stephen Langton, the Archbishop of Canterbury. Well, all legislation is positive law. Does anybody know what positive law is? Well, it's authoritatively imposed law. I'll explain later on in the talk exactly what that is. So, when you legislate, you legalise something. So you make something legal to conform or validate what was before void or unlawful. To add the sanction and authority of law to that which before was without or against the law. And that's what they're doing with legislation. They impose things that are actually against the law and make them lawful. So what is the foundation of a lawful society of mankind? It's you. And it's you independently deciding that's the state you want to be in. That's the society you want to be a part of. And you independently contract to that. This is the society we've got. Around the world, people live in abject poverty. Conditions that are absolutely disgusting. And it's all sanctioned by the state. They don't care. This is what society should be based on. As the good is that at which all things aim, the good of a shipbuilder is to build a ship. The good of a squirrel is to be an effective, successful and functioning squirrel. The ultimate goal for man and woman is happiness. It is also our nature to think. The good for man or woman must then consist in their functioning in a way consistent with and guided by their rational element, their reason and wisdom. Therefore, whatever helps the pursuit of truth is good, whatever hinders it is bad. It is in our nature to be social creatures, as all life is connected and interdependent, which means the altruism of one has selfish benefit. The inherent ends of one man's nature must not do what frustrates true fulfilment from indulging vices of perception encroaching externally, but through establishing true society and therefore social harmony, allowing personal growth, spiritual evolution, and a fertile and fruitful environment for all life. That's what society should be based on. But it isn't. Because people accept, they're born into it and they accept it as being gospel. And it's not. We can only own what we create ourselves. You can't own the earth, and you can't own the resources of the earth. Because you came into this world with nothing, and you leave this world with nothing. So you only have a right of use. That's the law. That's what they're trying to hide. And they hide that with a fraud called ownership. But ownership is based on the same original concept, where you only own what you yourself create. So then they had to make a man a god, so that the creator of the earth and the resource of the earth is on the earth. And then they can take that, from that ownership, from that man, they can then own the earth, through that right of a man and a god, which is what the Roman Catholic Church have done. And the representative of the man God, Christ, would be the Pope. He's a substitute of Christ on earth. So therefore the owner of the earth and its resources. And from that fiction, ownership is established. People think that ownership's always existed. It hasn't. What's always existed is a right of use.